Thank you. We have a good rest of the afternoon on MAE stuff, and we're going to start with Tom Beckley, who's the new Steve Feldman. What more can I say? Tom, welcome.
I've never been introduced as a new Steve Feldman before, but I'll take that as a good thing. But I've known Steve for 20 years, so at least I'm familiar with him. So I have the goal of talking about what's going on with the MAE. This is sort of the MAE status, and I'm going to really cover sort of three areas in this talk. We have the two platforms at the MAE right now: the FIDI platform and the ATM platform. And then I'm going to talk about some work, things we're looking at in terms of other architectures, and we're just going to cover one case that we have to be looking at. So we'll start. The change for MAE East this year has been that for ATM, we used to be in one location, 81 Boone Boulevard, with a number of the BPX switches. Today we're spread across 3 locations, and so we have sort of a small metropolitan area network for the exchange point. And so there's the 3 sites: the original site at Boone Boulevard, then we have a site in Reston and a site in Ashburn. And we have an additional site planned for probably first quarter 2001, again in the same general area. The sites all have switches at the sites. They have obviously transport and co-location, which was the problem at Boone, as we were running short on those commodities. The benefits of distributing the MAE is from one perspective, it's increased capacity in terms of ports, circuits, co-location, etc. And then it gives us some benefit from a resilience perspective. If due to some sort of catastrophe you lost the site, you wouldn't necessarily lose the whole MAE. You would have the other 2 or 3 locations still available or viable. And again, we haven't done anything with West yet. It's still at 55 market, but there's probably by second quarter next year will be an additional site at West. Don't know where yet though. I'm going to talk a little bit about the service type that we have on the ATM today, and we see it sometimes. People take a crack at describing it on NANOG list, but so what it is it's an ABR service, and really the metric that we use in provisioning the PVCs is PCR equals 2 times MCR. So the customers via PeerMaker or whatever method they use, which is hopefully PeerMaker, they decide they want an MCR of N cells, and PeerMaker goes ahead and sets PCR at 2 times N cells. The other piece that happens today is that MCR, when totaled, cannot exceed the access port speed. So whether the ports are the same size or different size, these are different customers, it doesn't matter, but you can't oversubscribe with this today. We're making one change. We're going to do a new release on the provisioning code in November, and we're actually going to cap the size of the PVCs. And there's some reasons for this. So on this particular service, which we sort of call the guaranteed service, we have MCR can't exceed 50% of the port speed down to for an OC12 access. You can't exceed 25% of the port speed, and then PCR is twice that. So you can get fairly reasonable MCR and PCR out of the system. When we did a review and audit of the current PVCs, there's only, I think, 2 that exceed these criteria, so it's not going to be a huge change. The goal is to try to protect the service to the extent as possible. So if you're familiar with the BPX at all, you know that the trunks are OC12, and we have multiple trunks between the switches, but nonetheless, if you ran a full width OC12 PVC, it makes it a little bit tricky at times. We're going to have a new service type available in November, probably early November. We're going to make an update to PeerMaker. This stems out of a lot of requests for a UBR type service at the MAE. We're actually not going to have UBR PVCs. We're going to basically have a UBR-like service. So in this case, we'll set, it'll be, the PVCs will still be ABR, and so we have all the VSVD, the congestion control stuff of the BPX is working, but we're going to set MCR to a low value with 100 cells per second. when you request this service type via peer maker. And then the PCR gets set to a larger value. And these are right now fixed pretty much. You don't get a choice per se. So in this case, the PCR will be set to full bandwidth for a DS3 up to 50% for an OC3. So the cells get marked CLP equals 1 in that range. Anything above that is policed, obviously, and the 100 cells go through, but that's not very much. So that's just sort of the smallest number you can do on the switches comfortably. And again, MCR can't exceed the access port speed, so you can't oversubscribe from an MCR perspective, but you can get a lot of 100-cell PVCs into those, so that's not a huge constraint. Service types can be mixed, so you can have an ISP or customer could have some of the best effort circuits, some of the guaranteed style PVCs, etc. So that's pretty much, and that code is supposed to. We're looking for November deployment. As a lot of you are aware, but not everyone, for a variety of reasons, we're going to decommission FIDI at East. This goes back to two main issues. One is the gigaswitches have been a difficult platform to support over past history, and it's been sort of a disservice to the customers to some extent, having the instability of the platform at times. I think everyone's aware of this. And then the facility at 1919 Gallows is a problematic facility for us, and so to reinstantiate, we didn't want to reinstantiate this platform at that facility. At that point, there was the decision was made to just support the ATM at East. There's a FAQ on the mainnet webpage that talks about this, and we're looking at turning it down at the end of February. Obviously, there is opportunity to move to ATM, but that kind of gives you a timeline, but it's not too close in the future. At West, we had the same problem of the gigaswitches of not wanting to support them, but we had a different space parameter. So what we did is replace that equipment at West. So the MAE West FIDI is running on the Antaresys SSR 8600, which is not that different from Cabletron or Riverstone, but the Antaresys is the division of that split-up company that happens to sell FIDI cards. The customer connections were migrated during the period in late September, early October, and so the gigaswitches were powered down about 2 weeks ago at West. So there are no more. This is the same platform effectively that they run at the AIM side of the MAE, and we have a OC12 up between East and West. And again, that's all on their side. They have the same basic Cabletron hardware, the SSR. At this time, there's no plan to decommission the MAE FIDI at West, but also no new customers will add it, so it's there in the fashion it is. But we believe it'll be, for the people that are there, the customers that are there, it should be reliable, stable. We haven't had any issues since we cut the customers over, and there wasn't a lot of awareness necessarily. I'm going to talk a little bit about a lot of people look at architectures for peering, and as we do, and we're looking at several right now, and this is just to talk about one of them a little bit. I sort of think of it as in two ways. There's sort of aggregation platforms, which the ATM could be, and then there is a type of peering that's done at some other exchanges, which looks more like private peering. And I'm going to talk about aggregation here. The wrong way. Anyway, so from a service perspective, the goal is to have equal and neutral access to the exchange, and this is in respect to all comers, and in whatever order they queue up for the service. We don't give preferential treatment to any customers. And again, the goal is to apply the same rules and same policies to all. We want to provide a stable service interface. That's pretty obvious. We want to protect shared resources. So in the core of the MAE or the core of the exchange, it needs to be reliable, not drop cells, etc., or packets to the extent possible. And again, this is from our perspective, we want to enable the users to absolutely manage their relationships. And so we have the two cases, or multiple cases, where you might have an ISP or customer that wants to peer with everyone, and that's fine. If an ISP or a customer only wants to peer with a few other entities, that's fine too. It's not really our business. We just provide the exchange and enable the customers to make the relationships themselves. And we want to, as everyone does, leverage advanced technology. We're somewhat constrained by some of our platforms today for obvious reasons, and we'd not like to be constrained going forward. And then from a drivers internally, we're looking at, the normal things, more bandwidth, more port speeds, etc. There's some requirements from customers for OC48 access. The current platform doesn't support OC48. Obviously, the BPXs won't scale forever in this type of application. And so what we've been testing for this particular type of application is a MPLS core with a frame interface. So this could be your Juniper box with POS ports and with frame encapsulation on them. Map the DLCIs to LSPs at the core and run an exchange in that manner. It would then look a layer 2. It's basically a layer 2 may look a lot like ATM, but without some of the other baggage that goes with it. In that model, we would offer OC3 to OC48 from a customer-facing perspective. The good things about this is the provisioning is pretty straightforward from both sides. We don't have a lot of complicated interface between customer CPE and MAE core. We don't exchange any routing information in this model. Again, you can change the core without changing the service level interface. So it makes it you can move things underneath that interface. And again, with the frame, you don't have the cell tax. You have cheaper cost of CPE, less real estate on CPE. Certain routers will give you 1 ATM slot per port and 4 POS ports per slot. I said that backwards, but you get the idea. So it works out better in a lot of ways than ATM. Everything has problems, this included. We've been doing testing with Juniper, and there's really only like-to-like over this CCC feature they have. There's no way of doing a frame to anything else with the platform. There's a minor problem with DLCI ranges that you can use in their implementation. And then the real problem is interworking with existing ATM or any other platform. In a perfect world, we'd put this up and have it interoperate with the ATM at West, and it's a little bit more complicated than just running a standalone frame exchange point. And that's pretty much what I was going to cover. It's pretty quick. This leaves time for questions or else time for the next presentation to get up. So if anyone has a question on any subject relative to the MAE, feel free.
John's going up, I think. Oh.
Ron Wilner from AT&T. With the migration and decommissioning of the MAE East FIDI, since many of the peers will be migrating to an ATM platform, what consideration has WorldCom given to the discontinuities in peering that will result?
In the sense that you won't, there'll be if you move, there are certain peers that you have today you won't be able to have on the new platform. Basically, none at this point. We're not going to interoperate the two platforms for any period of time. A customer would be able to establish a relationship with the ATM during the period before the FIDI is cut down and be able to manage it themselves, but we're not managing the peering relationships.
Would there be any consideration given to an interim solution of interconnecting the two locations?
I couldn't hear the last part, I'm sorry.
Would there be any consideration given to interconnecting the two locations?
Not at this time. Connecting the FIDI to the ATM is a little bit problematic from our point. It's not something we want to get involved in. In terms of backhaul, I don't think we're planning to offer backhaul.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Question regarding the MAE ATM and WorldCom's PeerMaker product. Not been able to get a lot of technical information from WorldCom people per se on the PeerMaker product. So my question is related to that, and I don't know whether or not this would be the right place to do that or to have that conversation on the side.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay. Is it correct to assume that the MAE ATM PeerMaker product, anybody who is connected into the WorldCom ATM cloud can then get a PVC or multiple PVCs into the MAEs for the purposes of peering? Or how is that actually really working?
In this, the way it exists is that if you're an ATM customer, you can access the PeerMaker, and you need to talk to other customers of the MAE and agree to peer.
I agree with that, yes.
And then basically you enter in a request into the PeerMaker, and it then sends an email off to the person that you've already made an agreement with, and they come back and acknowledge, they can either accept or decline it, basically.
So all I need is a pipe into your ATM cloud, and then life is good.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are you getting rid of the colo space at MAEs?
No.
So the existing colo space in the basement and the fifth floor remain?
Yeah, the colo space at 1919 Gallows isn't part of the MAE product. It's a colo product, and it's just there, and they're not doing anything with it. No one's being asked to vacate the colo. We just are moving the switches out, or we're actually shutting them down at 1919 Gallows.
Have you also looked into offering a gigi, 10 gigi type of exchange point service?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question.
Are you looking into an Ethernet level exchange service using gigi and 10 gigi services?
Yeah, we're looking at several types of exchange fabrics. I just talked about one of them. Obviously, that's another obvious one, and then there's a lot of stuff with fiber DWDM that we're also looking at.
Speaking for myself, I've been waiting several months for MFS and WorldCom to agree on pairs assignment for a cross-connect for multiple circuits into MAE East ATM. Now, will any consideration be provided to customers who may or may not actually get their connectivity by the time FIDI goes away? Because we're on somewhat short notice here.
I understand the question. I think that'll have to be looked at case by case, and that's really sort of more the marketing sales end of the product, and I can't give you a good answer on that. But if you can always engage your sales rep where they're on the May.net, there's a May info that goes to marketing, and you can always...
Believe me, this has been brought up with a whole lot of people at this point. The issue is simply that originally, I realize it's the end of February now, but originally you guys were saying the end of the year, and we got about 2 months notice on this. Well, we're still waiting for this to go in. I'm a little concerned that everyone's on pretty short notice for this move, and will there be potentially any consideration or postponement of the turndown if there are still customers with pending installs?
I can't. It's going to have to be looked at case by. We have to look at the situation at the time, and certainly I don't think anyone's going to be unreasonable, but I can't give you a good answer on that.
Okay, thank you.
And we did slip the date out 2 months for these reasons, obviously.
Hi.
Hi.
Why would one want to go to the MAE ATMs in like Ashburn and stuff when they can go to PAX and have more carrier diversity and gig?
Thank you. Maybe Steve will take that question. You'll need to go to the microphone. I can't. The product is defined as it's defined, and that would need to come through marketing and sales. I could certainly design that, but.
Thank you.
Tom, since you were introduced as being the new me, there's really an accessory that you need in order to do this right.
Oh, no. I'll even do it. I don't know. Does it look as good on you as me as it does on you?
Not really.
No? Okay.
You're great, Tom. Thanks so much.